Hi everyone, and welcome to the Be Brave podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Before we dive in, I want to give a quick trigger warning. This podcast will talk about child sexual abuse, trauma, and recovery. Please listen with care and kindness to yourself. If at any point you feel triggered, pause, take a break, and come back when you're ready. I'll share some helpline numbers at the end for anyone who needs support. And just so you know, throughout the series, we'll be using words like CSA, grooming, and other terms that might be difficult to hear. Please take care of yourself whilst listening. Hi, and welcome back to the Be Brave podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we are joined by Giuly, who has generously agreed to share her lived experience and her journey of making sense of trauma and the meaningful advocacy work that she does now. Giuly, thank you so much for being here. How are you feeling about coming into the conversation today?
Hi, Chloe. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. I am excited to be part of something so wonderful, and these are such delicate but also very important topics to discuss. And I pray and hope that it makes a huge difference to people. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And absolutely, I'm hoping that this will help anyone that's listening. So to begin, can we, before we explore your story, I'd love for listeners to really get to know you a little bit, who Giuly is outside of the trauma and outside of the story that you're about to tell us.
I'm Giuly. I am a wife. I'm a wife to a wonderful husband of 12 years. I have two wonderful boys of 9 and 11, so I'm a mum. I like to think that I'm a good friend. I am a singer in my spare time, and I love to read, and I am a devout Christian.
I love that you're a singer. What kind of songs do you go into? Like, do you just do it on your own at home, or do you actually go and sing? Because I love that.
Do you know what? My children turn me off sometimes. I just break into song all the time. There is not a particular style or genre that I prefer. If a song sticks with me, I just love the emotions that a song can convey. And ever since I was a little girl, I've always loved singing. So it's just one of my passions.
Singing is so good for the soul, and it is. I love singing as well. I sometimes go to choir. We have a choir down the road, and an adult choir, and I love it. And I haven't been there for a while actually, but it's so good for the soul. And if you're feeling anxious or upset, or you're not feeling great, if you just go and sing, nothing else can be in here because you can't. And it is, yeah, one of my favorite hobbies as well. So thank you for sharing who you are. If you feel okay and you're ready, could we talk about your experience and how it began and how it has shaped you as a person and how it shaped your world as a whole, really?
So I was born in Milan, which is in the north of Italy. And when I was 11 months, due to some serious health issues, I was fostered to a beautiful family that lived also in the north of Italy, about a 3-hour journey away. I lived with them till I was 6 years old. A beautiful family, beautiful memory, a lady who I adored and I call my mum. And I had two brothers and sisters over there, her children. And I was the youngest. So I don't want to use the word spoiled, but I was really loved and everybody welcomed me with open arms. And I only have the most amazing memories, just the fondest, beautiful memories. And if I can liken the love that I felt there, I'd say it was like a cloud, like a soft cloud. And so I stayed with them till I was 6. And when I was 6, the move back to my biological family happened rather abruptly and suddenly. And I moved back in Milan. I had 3 biological sisters and 1 brother. The life there was very different. There was unfortunately a lot of anger and a lot of abuse that happened. And it was a completely different world. So definitely a huge shock for me and a nightmare, if you will.
Can I ask you a question? When you say that you had issues when you were born and you had medical issues, why did you go and live with your foster parent? Is it because of those medical issues that your biological parents couldn't look after you? So then how was that? How was it implemented, I suppose, and how did that work?
Yeah, of course. So and again, these are stories that said to me. I had breathing issues. There were problems with my lung capacity. And so it was breathing in Milan, although it was in the center that we lived, there's a lot of pollution there. The air wasn't as pure or fresh as it was where my mum lived. She lived near the mountains in the north of Italy. And yes, my biological family parents didn't have the means to pay for my care. Unfortunately, from what I understand, the medication that I needed injections, I needed steroids, that kind of thing, several times per week, and they couldn't afford it. So we're in an economical position to do that. There was a wonderful lady who I believe was a social worker, I want to say, and she was wonderful. And she passed years ago, God rest her soul. But she got my mom in touch with my biological parents because she was known in the north of Italy for doing a lot of charity work, always had the biggest heart and always had to help people. And so they were put in touch, and it was just, yeah, it was put in touch that way. I don't know from a legal standpoint what happened, but yeah, I just went to live with my mum that way, and she was very happy and willing to foster me.
Great, thank you for clarifying. So when obviously you lived there from when you were very young up until you were 6, and you had a lovely, lovely time, lovely life. She was very caring, loving. And then you say that when you were 6, you then very abruptly went to your biological parents. Was there a reason that your biological parents wanted you back?
It was quite difficult for my mum to talk about this for many years. And I just don't think I asked till just a couple of years probably before she passed. She passed away last year. This again, her words, which I can't vouch for, but I trust her. She said that they had started to hearing rumors that because I had left home and no one had seen me anymore, so they were aware of my existence, but no one had seen me. I don't know if they meant other family members or if they meant, the community around, neighbors. That's the voice had started circulating that I had been sold. This is what I heard. And so because of that reason, they just wanted to have me back. And I also suspect that it was to do with the fact that I was to start school. School starts at age 7 in Italy. So that was something to think about as well. It is just how sudden my mum recalls this move to happen. She was genuinely concerned about me. I mean, her heart was breaking, and she still found it quite difficult to talk about many years later. But yeah, it was the fact that it happened that she was worried of how it would affect me.
God, that must have been so difficult for you, obviously, but also for your mum to have a child from a very young age up until 6 that she has reared and looked after, and then all of a sudden you're taking away. That is really tragic. And I can't even imagine that for you and for her. It's just awful. And I'm so sorry that happened. When you went to live with your biological parents, can you please, if you feel comfortable, tell us what happened when you started to live with them and how the trauma came in?
It was a very different life. I mean, my mom had a larger home. This is purely from an economical point of view. So just the stark difference that as a child you can see. My mom had a large house, a lot of space to run around. And my biological parents lived in a very small flat on the 7th floor outside of Milan. It was 5 children and 2 biological parents in a very small, there were 2 bedrooms. And then the front room was converted into a makeshift room, if you will. And it was just very different because, to be honest with you, children don't even realize money that young. So yes, I could see that there was a difference that way, but it was just the difference was there was no love or very little of it. There was a lot of anger, I mean, they definitely worked really hard. So I do wonder if the anger came purely from exhaustion, tiredness, frustration, but the anger was taken out on me and my siblings, and there was a lot of fear. I remember just being so scared because I was really confused where my mum was coming back to get me. And I just went to bed crying every night for months, thinking, what have I done wrong? Have I been really bad? What have I done that she's forgotten me? She doesn't love me anymore. I didn't understand because I don't know truly whether I had the chance to see them during these years that I was away. I don't remember that. It could have happened, but I genuinely didn't know that they were my parents, my birth parents. And so I was very, very confused. I mean, those were the forming years where you learn to walk and talk and recognize love and your parents and who the people that you trust are. So it was incredibly difficult. It was very different, and I just felt very scared all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine. You come from a very safe place, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into a lion's pit that is completely enough. As someone at 6 years old, that is so hard to comprehend. You don't have that capacity and that cognitive understanding of why this is happening. So that must have just been terrible. I'm so sorry, Julie, that that happened to you. It's awful, just terrible. When it all started to happen, how did it affect your sense of safety and trust and belonging, I suppose?
I just felt like I was on high alert all the time. So I was conscious that I had done or I must have done something that was really bad. And so I was already from the start, I was a bad girl. I was wicked and, I just felt scared all the time. I'd have nightmares. Sometimes I couldn't fall asleep for ages, for hours. And I was just put the covers of the blanket on top of my head. So no one realized that I was awake, because there was no safety. It didn't matter if you were awake, if it was daytime, if it was nighttime. If you incurred their wrath or their anger, there was a lot of violence. And I would just sort of lay very still and think, okay, what can I do tomorrow? How can I be better tomorrow? Yeah, feeling very, very unsafe and very scared of the people whom I thought were supposed to take care. So it wasn't fear that was coming from the outside. The fear was at home constantly.
I can just see like you as a little girl and just what I'm not understanding what's going on. And just when you said, I just thought, oh, you were naughty the whole time. You would lay on your bed and say, what can I do better tomorrow? Oh, it's breaking my heart, because no child should ever have to think that, ever. What can I do better? That is, yeah, awful. In terms of the trauma that you endured, what beliefs did you hold about yourself? And I always find this quite interesting, because when someone's had child abuse, child sexual abuse, we do hold on to a lot of beliefs about who we are as people after the trauma and after the abuse has happened. So, what did you hold on to about yourself? And I suppose about other people and the world around you? And what were those influences after what had happened to you?
So, I think now that I'm a mom, I can see that as parents, we hold so much power as to over how our children get to perceive and believe what's normal. I have been reading this amazing book titled The Myth of Normal, and he sort of delves into quite sort of profound areas. And he tells us that up until we are 7 years of age, whatever we receive from the outside, whether it's something that is said, whether it's something that is acted on, whether it's something that is told, we believe that that is true. And so we grow up thinking and believing in those realities, even if as an adult we realize that is absurd. As a child and up until age 7, we absorb everything. So although I had received so much love up until age 6, so much of it, I felt so disoriented that I made myself believe that that wasn't true. Because how could I what could I how could there be anything good in me if that was what was happening? So, I just realized my mum must have realized I was bad. And so I had to go and live here, and this was my new life. And I genuinely felt like I was bad, and I felt guilt over everything, and not just you've done something wrong, think about it, how can you improve? That's loving. I felt guilty over every single thing I did, over everything I thought, over everything I said.
Do you think that's crossed over into your adulthood? So, if you felt like that as a child, do you think that that has, maybe not now, because hopefully you're healing and you understand a lot more, but do you think in your early adulthood, do you think that that crossed over to who you were and who you developed to be?
I would say 100%. The thing that I remember specifically was that we were always taught to be good. So you must appear to the world that you are good, you are exemplary. Now, as a parent, I can see there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I love when we go out and people notice that my children are polite. It makes me beam with pride when the children receive an award from school, because I love that the world gets to see how fantastic they are. But then we come home and we instill that love in them, discipline, yes, with love, but that love and that confidence that they have in themselves. But we were receiving that. So I didn't feel that that was went hand in hand with show the world that we are somebody. Don't tell anybody what's happening. Tell absolutely no one. We must be examples. We must be good. And actually, I just felt I became very hypercritical of myself because I need to be good. I need to show the world that I'm good. I'm not good. So what can I do? And so that kind of became an eating disorder for myself because that was, I am horrible. I am ugly. I am stupid. What can I do to control that as a child? What can I do? And then it also became sort of a lot of focus on things. So hyperfixate on things and definitely develop coping mechanisms such as I still have, and that is something that I struggle with. I still have compulsions that I am working through, but definitely is the things that I felt I can have control over, and they carried through self-harm, carried through to when I was a few years ago, I'd say. Children changed a lot for me. But yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's what you sort of said about control, and I think that is a massive part of it. When you have been abused as a child, you lose all of that control. Everything goes out the window. So then as adults and how it's shaped us as adults, we seek that control constantly. And I reckon when you said that, it's straight away it hit me because I thought that's exactly what I do. And I still struggle with that control massively, where I constantly want to be in control of every situation. And obviously, that's not rational. You cannot be in control of everything. You just can't. But as someone that has been abused, because for so many years you didn't have it and you lacked it, you constantly seek it. And I think that is a massive part of something that as trauma and as people that have been sexually abused or abused as a child, we hold on and it shows in different ways, like you were saying, like in eating disorder, you can control what you're putting in your mouth. Self-harm, you can control what you're doing to your body, and it shows in different ways. So, yeah, it's a real massive impact when a child has been abused. It is a huge impact, and it doesn't just stop when the abuse stops. It carries on, it lingers for years and years and years and years. And I think that is a massive part where I talk about that in my speech. When I do speeches about my story, I talk about how it doesn't just end when the abuse ends or when the abuser stops. It continues and it constantly continues. Because there's always going to be different triggers, isn't there? There's always going to be different things that are going to trigger what happened to us. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it and being so open and honest about it. One other question I'd like to ask you, if you feel comfortable, was there a silence around what happened to you and what you experienced, and how did that affect you?
Yeah, so connected to the what we've just spoken about, there was definitely not only a silence from the fact that we were explicitly told to not talk about anything. It made me very confused as to whether this is when I was a child, as to whether this was something that happened in every household. And so we just don't talk about it. But then when we go outside, we must show the best side of ourselves, which really made me confused because some of my classmates genuinely seemed really happy. And I knew that I wasn't, but I was portraying. And I'm thinking, wow, are we all just playing a really long game? I remember my classmates talking about, and they had their struggles as well with parents, and not everybody had a fantastically happy home. But I do remember many of them talking about birthdays and parties and holidays they would do. And it was just so very different. The parents were proud of them, the parents loved them. And yes, they were pushed to strive to do better, but they were pushed in a loving way, knowing that if they did fall, there'd be someone there to catch them. There was no safety net in our lives. And it was that. And also it was, and I'm just going to bring sort of briefly my faith in this. There was also a lot of silence that went, my parents did go to a church. And there was a lot of talk that went through about the power of prayer, which I firmly believe in. But there was also this repetition of, we don't talk about these things. There is no need, talk about it, come to the leaders of the church, and then we can sort about it that way. And so that's why, even as I was getting older and realized that some of the things didn't add up and I didn't feel that it was okay that they were happening, there was a lot of fear and a lot of reserve as to whether things should be spoken about or not.
Yeah, there's, I think, a massive part of people being abused or children being abused is silence, and it's a real thing, isn't it? Can you just explain how, and if again, if you're comfortable, you went to live with your biological parents at 6. When did you manage to, I don't want to use the word escape, but leave your biological parents? How old were you when it stopped? Did it stop at any point, or did it stop because you left?
So we, up until we lived in Italy, it never stopped. And it was relentless and very sad. And it makes me actually quite teary to think about the time that we got any respite from that, from the anger and the abuse, was when they were fighting amongst themselves, the two of them, our biological parents. And I actually have a lot of compassion in that regard for my biological mother. But of course, that were the only times that we were happy. And I used to pray that that would be the day, that can it be the day that we're okay. So whilst we were in Italy, no, it didn't stop. We moved as a family here again, very suddenly, very abruptly, when I was just about to turn 17. It was, again, a very sudden move. It was just pack a few things and go. Genuinely, to this day, as an adult, I don't know what the reason was behind that. We came here with, as far as I'm aware, nothing. And again, it was a very controlling household as to whom you saw, whom you spoke to, and things like that. And whilst now I'm a parent and I do understand the dangers of the outside world, again, it wasn't done in a loving manner, in a loving way. So to be completely honest with you, although I got to see my mom, and then there was an agreement between my mom and my biological parents that I could see her during the holidays, and that continued, and that was incredible for me. My real escape, if you will, happened when I got married to my first husband, incredibly young. I was 21, and I saw his family as a happy family, and they still are. I'm sure they still are amazing parents, ex to me, but parents to him and to his family. And I wanted that. I wanted that so desperately. And yeah, so if you will, that was my escape at that time.
You kind of, in a way, saw an escape because you saw another family that was happy. You wanted that. I know you said that you were very young, and obviously he's now not your husband, so I'm assuming it probably wasn't the right thing to have done, but at the time you probably thought it was. How long did the marriage last?
Yes, so we got together when I was 19. So we were together for about 9 years altogether. This is not the platform, and I have absolutely no bad feelings in my heart for my ex-husband. It's taken me, again, a long time to heal from that too. But I just want to say that taking accountability and recognize things that you can improve and work on is far more important and relevant to my life than take apart a time that I have no regrets for and just shout from platforms and from here and from other places and avenues about the things that he did wrong. So I don't want to do that. I definitely want to say that a lot of my suppressed trauma and weighed of me so much went towards the issues that we went to have because we were incredibly young and new to everything. And so I think that that definitely influenced that. And that goes hand in hand when I realized that my marriage was crumbling, and I had then approached the leaders of that particular church regarding what had happened to me, because it had taken me many years to realize this is not okay. I was 28. And when I did that again, that was the time that I said, oh, we don't need to, involve the authorities in this. There's nothing that you need to talk about. And I knew it was wrong. I knew when I saw what love was, how my ex-parents, respected and loved one another, and they had so much love for me. And, I knew it was wrong. And I just thought, okay, something has to change. There's no hatred in my heart. There's no want for revenge. There wasn't there and there isn't now. Just a lot of sadness, but nothing like that. And I just thought, this has to stop. I need to heal. I need to be better, but I want to do better so that this doesn't happen to anyone else, just in case. And because I know it's wrong. And that is when I felt from everything around me felt like it was crumbling. And that is when I slowly felt strong to say that's enough and something has to change.
I think you, from what you're saying, you had built up all of that suppressed trauma and you hadn't processed it, and it probably shaped your relationship. And it's then when you were 28 you then suddenly realized, well, not, maybe not suddenly, but you realize this is not okay. I need to do something about this. And that takes a lot of courage, because I think when you suppress trauma, and I suppressed my trauma for 17 years, it does shape you as well. That you're suppressing that trauma, it shapes you as a person, it shapes those relationships, it shapes you, who you are, how you believe the world to be, the trust in people. And it only helps when you start to heal from that. And when you went to that church and you suddenly then, this is not okay. So I kind of want to touch a little bit on, or explore a little bit about, because you mentioned the church and your culture and the community and then your religion and your family values and how that interacted with your story. And you've kind of touched on it, I suppose, but yeah, how did that kind of shape you as a person and your trauma?
When I was young and I lived with my mom, she was a devout Catholic. We went to church on every Sunday. But then she went on not just to, to go to church and do that duty. She lived her life as a Christian, as a most wonderful, most fantastic. So I'm going to get teary because my mom passed away last year. She was just an incredible human being. And I saw that it was, you live your life according to what you learn, and you teach others that there is so much love to be had in this world and so much hope. The hope is never lost. And that's who I am today. So my faith has helped me to accept that there is evil in this world, that we can conquer that, and that no, prayer alone is not going to make the evil go away, but that it is so powerful. And obviously we have authorities that are placed in this world that we can turn to when we need. And there are so many different avenues that we can reach out to for help. But for me, leaning onto the Lord, leaning onto God was the most important step that I took, because I felt really alone, and abuse is very isolating. You genuinely think that you're alone. Your perpetrator makes you feel like you are defensive, like you're stupid, like no one's ever going to believe you. And I did feel like that. I was deterred for a long time. And I thought, who's going to believe me? Who am I? The stupid, insignificant, worthless girl. And then I just, I picked myself up. And I knew that I hadn't lied when I was a little girl. My mom said to me, the Lord puts his hand on you, and you're going to go on and do wonderful things. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And that's what I wanted to do. Becoming a mom made me realize that I wanted to have children that never had to heal from anything like that. I wanted to give them a childhood that I didn't need to heal from. Along that, and my faith has genuinely made me shine. And I'm not scared to say it anymore. I shine, and I don't shine because of me. I shine because of my faith, because of my children. I'm sorry.
So you're okay. Do you want to take a minute?
I'm okay. Absolutely. For me, it has been the foundation upon where my life is built. It's my way of life. It's what gives me hope in every single morning, and how I carry on. And yes, I do have a light that shines in this world, and I'm really proud of that.
As you should be. You do have a light, and I can feel it from you. And you have this wonderful energy. And I've never met you in person, but I can feel it even from a little box on a computer. I can feel your energy, and I can feel your compassion and your love and your want to help others. And it really is incredibly inspiring. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I know it's raw and I know it's a lot. So yeah, just thank you for sharing that. I'd love to explore sort of therapy and the healing pathways that you explored and you've taken. So you've mentioned to me about parts of therapy and your healing journey, and I'd love to sort of explore how that evolved and how you started.
Yes, absolutely. So I must admit, up until the time that my mum was alive, she was my number one form of therapy. I don't think there's ever been one thing that I couldn't approach her about. And she didn't give me the solution. She didn't say that it was going to be easy, but she had this way about her where I just felt everything can be conquered and everything is going to be okay. But realistically speaking, finding this was for me personally, finding somebody who specialized in the trauma that comes from childhood abuse was incredibly beneficial. And I'm not gonna lie, it was trial and error with many of these things. Some things worked, some things didn't. Some people were well intentioned, but it wasn't something that was for me. This particular one is opening my eyes to a lot of understanding of the behavior that are manifest into the present that stems from the past. And so it's been really insightful for me. I do think that outside of normal therapy, there's also, of course, things that you can do for yourself. So for me, it's amazing. Singing, I mentioned, yes, but walking just releases so much stress. And I just feel so invigorated, when I go on walks. And actually, when I go on my walks, I do struggle socially, but I love seeing people. And which is really odd. You think, what do you mean? But I do. I love people. And I love that somehow along my journey, I can speak to somebody, I can say hello to people, and I can look at nature and just be so thankful and amazed at everything that we have. So that is definitely been incredibly helpful. And my children are my therapy too, actually. I just their hugs are magic.
I was just gonna ask you about your children because everything that you sort of said is everything that I kind of do as well, and I love going for walks. I have my dog now that I got last year, and he has been so great because it gets you out the house 'cause I have to walk him. Rain or sunshine, I have to walk him. And it really is, I get out and I just walk around nature. I either put music in or I sometimes just listen to the birds chirping. And it really does ground you, especially if you're feeling anxious or you're having one of the bad days, because we do have bad days and we have good days. And if you're having a bad day, getting out into nature is just, it really grounds me. And you mentioned your boys. My little girl, her cuddles are healing in itself. They are magic, and they really are. And I believe that, and I say this to her as well. I say, "You saved me," because she genuinely, I think she is meant to be mine, and she's meant to be here for me, and I think your boys are meant to be there for you, and they are the biggest healing part, and I genuinely don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for my daughter. So what surprised you about the healing process? Because I'm assuming you started your healing process when you went to the church at 28. I mean, you may have started a little bit before that, but it seems like you really suddenly went, this is not okay. And normally we start to heal when we start to process. So, how did the healing process work for you? And were you surprised at anything? Was there anything good or bad that came from it?
So, first and foremost, and this was my experience, when you heal, the healing process is not linear. You don't suddenly decide, even if you make the decision and you're so determined, you make a decision, you want to do better. So you feel, okay, from now till forever. It doesn't really work like that. Some days, and even now, I have amazing days. And so I have so much to be thankful for. And I genuinely, that's again, my mom says, every day start with a grateful heart. And I do that. But some days are not good. Some days are awful. Some days are hard. Some days are tough. Some days are exhausting. I struggle to just get up in the morning. And what I do in those days, I just allow that pain to be felt. I have a good cry. Well, therapeutic, if you can see it. So we had that here as well. There was a say that I heard, and it says, people don't listen with their ears, they listen with their triggers. I've also come to realize that relationship problems are childhood problems. So they're not necessarily about our partner, they're about the fact that we relieve trauma and we want to avoid it, like a survival strategy. And I'm going to give a very, very quick example, very silly example. My husband was really tired a couple of days ago and he was stressed. It always gives 100% when he works, and I know how passionate he is. He was tired. It was just having a tough day. So I wanted to be there for him. But the first thing that came into my head was, okay, that's it. He's fed up with me. I'm so stupid. What have I done wrong? That's the very first thing. I didn't say that to him, but that's it. I gave him a hug. I listened to him. I was there for him, but that was the very first thing. And that's what I have to fight against all the time. And I came across the concept of the inner child, which was incredibly fascinating for me. It was one of my biological sisters that introduced me to it, and I've been reading about it ever since. And sort of the part of your subconscious that they form your memories and emotions, and whatever belief you have and whatever experience you have from the past, you take with you and they become who you are. And this is why it's so important to heal who you were as a child, to be compassionate to that child, to know that things that happen were not that child's fault, nor were they what defines that child. And that child was wonderful and so worthy of love. When you learn that, and it's not easy, that's how you start healing in the present. And it is a constant process, that's for sure. Saying it is fascinating, important, and powerful, but also recognizing it is good, but also is fair to understand that it takes time. It is a continuous process and a continuous effort that you have to make in the journey of healing.
Absolutely. I completely agree. You have days that are great and days that are bad. And I think, like you said, sitting in the bad days and allowing that to be there and not, because for so long for me, I used to just push it away. I'd be like, stop, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But now when I have bad days, I allow it. I allow those triggers. I allow that trauma to come in and sweep over me because it's my way of processing it, and there are gonna be good and bad days, and it like you said, healing is not linear. It will continue, and that inner child, I find that incredibly fascinating, and I only did that a couple of years ago during the court case, actually, where I had therapy and someone said to me, "You need to forgive little Chloe," and I thought, What are you talking about?" She said, "You're not forgiving her." And I said, "No, of course not, because why does she not say anything? She was what on earth? Why? If she'd said something, none of this would be happening." And my therapist said to me, "Right, imagine she's there in front of you. Imagine there's a 9-year-old little girl in front of you. Would you say that to her? Would you say that to your daughter? Why do you not say anything? Oh, you're so stupid. For goodness sake, no." And I went, "No." She said, "Well, why are you saying it to yourself? You need to forgive yourself. You need to be kind to yourself. You need to think of that little girl, not the Chloe that I am now." Because of course, the Chloe that I am now, I probably would speak up because I understand it. But at 9, no, of course not. And once I processed that and I started to forgive myself, that is when my healing started. And don't be wrong, like you said, healing is linear. There are some days where I think, "Oh, why did I not say anything?" For so, and it will go back and forth. I'm never gonna ever completely erase that feeling, but it definitely gets easier and it does get better. And yeah, and forgiving and going back to that inner child, it really helps. And I find it very, very fascinating. So thank you for sharing that, because I think, yeah. Do you want to move on to your advocacy work and your voice that you now have and your purpose? Or do you have more that you want to talk about in the therapy and the healing side?
Yeah, so I ran along with this. It was something that I wanted to mention that I feel quite strongly about. And then this is what worked for me, by the way. I'm not saying that it has to work for everybody. I found that forgiving, like you said, I love that for little Clay, forgiving little Giuly is important. But also for me, forgiving the people who have hurt me was really important, because I learned that forgiveness. So for years, I fought with this of sense of guilt and not understanding how that worked. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. When you forgive, you take that decision. You say, "I'm going to let go of any resentment or anger that I hold towards you, because in the present, it's taking me away. It's taking joy and freedom and happiness away from me as a person." And this doesn't excuse their behavior, doesn't excuse what they did. It doesn't take away their hurt and the horrific trauma. It makes you feel so free. I just felt so much lighter. And it took me years, by the way. It wasn't just a decision where I clicked my finger and that was gone. I was angry. I was angry. I was enraged. I was all these feelings. But truly, I genuinely pray for them. And I hope that they find some love and light in their world and in their life. And that's it, truly. Do I want to ever reconcile? No. And I make peace with that. And I was very clear with that. And again, boundaries. But yes, truly. So that for me was really important. And also, I think, understanding you don't know any loyalty to anybody, important. But also, and this is again something that I battled with for years, was so as long as I say, and this is to anybody, if I deliver something that I have to say and I say it with kindness, with good intentions, I'm recognizing when I do something wrong, apologizing, owning, being better. Whatever I say is received by that person, and it's up to them to receive it, to know what to do with it. And I just say, that's it. I've done it in the good way. I've done it because I believed in it. And this again, I say it because as people who have been through abuse or trauma, often we doubt ourselves, we second guess ourselves, we feel that we are stupid, or whatever we have to say is so unimportant. But actually, again, through therapy, through kindness, and a lot of work on myself. I'm trying to think to speak up a bit more, be more assertive, with respect, with a good heart. Let's say it, and then is interpreted, is received, and there's nothing you can do about it. And if it changes the way that people view and perceive you, that's okay. That's okay. You can have friends, you can have people that you know, but just being authentic and standing up for your principles and your morals and your beliefs with respect for everybody else is so important. And then however people want to receive that, that is up to them. That's what I wanted to say.
That's incredible because I'm in awe of that because I am not there with either of those. I don't know if I could ever forgive. But when you're saying that it's so freeing, that's really interesting because the weight of me not forgiving him it does weigh on me. And I'm still got a lot of anger and I want that to go. I do. I do want it to go. I genuinely don't know how. So I am in awe that you've managed to get there. And I know that you said wasn't a click of fingers, it took time, but that's incredible for you, not for anyone else. For you, that is amazing. And hopefully one day I can get there too. And the assertive, not you're talking about being assertive. I'm bad at that. I'm getting better. I am getting better. And I've had a lot of therapy and my therapist still works on it with me with being assertive and speaking up for myself. But again, it's very hard because I didn't speak up for myself when I was a child and I struggle with it very, very badly. Working on it, still not there yet. I've got to a point in my life where and I think this is age. I don't know if this has anything to do with my healing necessarily. I think this has got to do with my age. I'm now 37. I don't really care what anyone thinks of me because I'm like, well, I think you get to an age where you just don't really care as much. When you're 20s, you're hanging on to, oh my goodness, does everyone think I look okay? And do they think I'm okay? And do I look okay? And I don't really care about that anymore. But I still haven't got that assertiveness that I should have. And I wish I had it because I need to have it, especially when I need to speak, if I need to stand. Although I think I would stand up and have that assertiveness for my daughter. I think I would because I'm like a lioness with her. I'm like a mama bear and I protect her in every single way. But anything else, I do really struggle. So I find that really interesting. And I definitely will need to get some tips off of you to help me and how you went about forgiving because like I said, I'm not there at all. And I'm sure that there's lots of people listening to this that are not there and they probably want to know how you got there. So if you want to share some tips now, that would be great because I really want to get to that point.
So again, reading the book that I mentioned, The Myth of Normal, really just helped me. This was my therapy recommended that. And there was something that was really important because I still do doubt myself. I'll say something to somebody, it doesn't matter what it is. And then I'll come home and I think, oh my gosh, that was so stupid. Why did I say that? Or that person, and maybe they're just having the worst day of their lives. But because they haven't said hello in the normal way, oh my gosh, they hate me. They never want to be my friend. And this still happens, and it's ridiculous when you say it out loud, but it's true. And this happens to me. And in the book, and again, takes work, takes, a lot of work. There were 5 steps, and I'll be very brief with this, is when a thought comes into your head, all it is a thought. So instead of saying, I'm stupid, everybody's going to laugh at me, you think, I seem to think that I am stupid. So it's a thought. And then you reattribute because you know that the brain is sending this old signal to you, but it's not true. Whatever happened that led you to think that you're stupid is unfair, shouldn't have happened to you. So it's just a thought. You refocus, number 3. So how can you distract yourself? What can you do in the immediate present now to take that thought away from you? Go for a walk. If you can't go for a walk, think of something else. Sing, read a book, talk to a friend, something positive. Number 4 is revalue. So you think, okay, hold on a second. What has this feeling done for me? What has it stopped me to accomplish? What maybe I could have had a meaningful, maybe I could have cared for that person. Maybe they were having, what have I missed out on? Just thinking and concentrating and focusing on this instead of realizing what is true. And number 5 is recreate. And, again, it sounds easier said than done and is a process, but what do I choose to create now? What's my worth? Because that child and that adult that I am now deserved love. So others deserve love. They deserve compassion, but so do we first and foremost. And again, honestly, I promise you, it's easier said than done when I make it sound that way, but it does work. It's incredible the difference that it's made in my life.
Thank you for sharing those. That's I can imagine it's taken a lot for you to be able. It doesn't just happen straight away. It's a learned behavior. It's like anything. It's a learned behavior. CBT is a learned behavior. You have to do it over and over and again in order for it to stick. But thank you for sharing those. If you can send me the links of all the books that you've mentioned, I will pop it at the end so people can have a look at them if they wanted to, because you've mentioned some really, really great things, and I think that will definitely help lots of people. So yeah, thank you for that. So if we go on to your advocacy work that you do and the voice that you now have. So you are an advocate, not a path that everyone feels ready to take or will ever be ready to take, and that's absolutely fine. But what inspired you to turn your experiences into advocacy?
My mum, simple as that. My mum has been my point of reference through this life and through whatever is next as well. She still is my absolute inspiration in everything. She believed in me so much that it just moves me. And she often would say to me, and it took me decades to talk to her about what had happened to me. She said, look, you are an inspiration. If you share your story, it might not be easy, but it's going to give hope to other people. Show them that you can become, you can recover, you can heal, and you can in turn become kind and be helpful and be there for other people. And I am not, I'm not a speaker. I'm not. I'm a reader. I'm a singer. I'm a good worker. But I'm not a speaker. So I found that to be quite daunting. When she passed, and it was really hard when that happened, I thought, okay, what can I do now? How can I act and make what she asked me come true? What can I do? So I actually contacted the NSPCC, which is something completely out of my comfort zone. And I found an incredible team. They are so amazing. That's how it came about. I shared my story. I came to do a talk, a speech there. I did then an interview as well with a newspaper. I'm here with you today. And I am so humbled and honored to think that what I have to say, the little old me can share my story and let other people see some of the light that there is out there. So much darkness, but honestly, so much light. And that is what motivates me to do it. I'll never stop. I've started now and I never stop. I don't want any recognition. I don't want any thank you from anybody. I just want them to see that they can do it, that there is hope, that it takes time, but that they're worth so much and that they are deserving of knowing that there is more to just the suffering, the pain, and what had happened to them.
It's so brave to speak up and tell your story, and doing it in front of 5 people, doing it in front of 300 people, doing it on a podcast. It is incredibly brave, and it takes so much to be here today to talk about it. We all know that it takes a lot out of us when we tap into our trauma, and to then be an advocate for other people, to allow them to see that it's okay and that they can come forward, they can speak out. There are other people like them that have gone through it and they're here and they've survived. And I think that is really, really positive and incredible and inspiring to see, because there are so many people that haven't come forward because of all the reasons we know why we don't come forward in the first place, because of all that shame and the stigma and the guilt and the worry that people are going to believe us and or not believe us, and what people are going to say and all of that. So there are so many people that are probably listening that haven't done it, and to see people like you and other people that are on this podcast that and other people that speak for the NSPCC and other charities, it is such a movement and it really helps people. And I think you're incredibly brave. So thank you for being an advocate for all of us and for being here today and for sharing your story and for being so brave. I really, really appreciate you and I appreciate everything that you do. So thank you. I suppose the next thing would be a message for people that are listening. And I ask quite a lot of people this at the end of the podcast. And I ask for anyone that's listening who still may be silent, like we've just mentioned, what would you want them to know right now?
That they're not alone. And I would like to speak directly to whoever is listening. You are not alone and you are so special. You're so precious. You have so much that you might not feel inside now, but you are incredible. And there is so much that you have to live still. And I think when the time is right and you do feel like, find someone that you can talk to, and there are many organizations up there, but find someone that you trust. Do that, take the first step, and it'll be for you first and foremost, because you will, I know you will, take that step and break that cycle.
And to add, it's not your fault, I think, is a massive thing as well. It's not your fault. None of it was your fault. It was the perpetrator, the abuser. It's not your fault. And yeah, well, thank you, Giuly, for being here and for your honesty, your courage, your generosity. Your voice matters as much as everyone else's. And, you know, you're precious, you're beautiful inside and out, and you are making a difference to everyone listening. And I really appreciate you. So thank you so much. Hopefully speak to you again soon.
It's been my absolute privilege. Thank you so much, and may this long continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Giuly. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Be Brave Project. If anything we spoke about today has affected you, please remember this: you are not alone, and you deserve support. There are people and organisations ready to listen, to believe you, and to help you through whatever you're facing. Support is available, and you'll find the helpline numbers just below. Please take care of yourself, be gentle with your heart, and remember, being brave doesn't mean being unafraid. It means choosing to keep going. And I'm so proud of you being here. Until next time.